And then now we've lived in, and then we moved because we have 3 daughters and we didn't have enough bathroom space. So we actually moved to a different location. Now we are closer to Dairy Queen. And we love Teaneck. Teaneck has been really good to us. And I'm very excited that I can bring my community, my passion for community activism to council. So the election is on November 5th. We are running on column 4 for the people, along with my slate mates, Harley and Walzer. This is Khan, Rishma Khan.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Reshma. We appreciate the intro and so forth. I just want to mention to everyone that we are recording tonight's session because there are for people just in case cannot make tonight's session can actually we will be distributing it for those that would like to listen. And I'm going to open it up to Gina, my colleague, and Gina to say a few words in this moment.
So, I mean, we're going to just touch on kind of real estate related topics that I think are good questions for the council and that will make a difference to property owners in Teaneck or people that would like to own property in Teaneck. And we're going to start with property taxes. So my first question to Reshma is, what long-term solutions are being considered to address Teaneck's rising property taxes without sacrificing community resources and services?
Thank you, Gina. That's a very thoughtful question. In fact, this is one of the reasons why each of us on our For the People slate, we have decided to run for council. Teaneck Township's financial standing right now, although we have the right ratings in place, we are also heavily bonded. Over the last 8 years, council wanted to remain in majority and therefore taxes did not go up. They promised a 0% increase in taxes. And we all know the reality of inflation, especially post-COVID, the kind of inflation that we have been seeing. And so this year, for the first time, taxes went up by 5%. That could have been much lower. 5% is very high for a town like Teaneck. One of the reasons it stabilized at 5% and did not actually land at 7% was because we had a cell phone tower that we sold for $1.7 million. So we were able to get that surplus. As a team, the 3 of us, Artie, Dwayne, and myself, we are working diligently to explore some strategic alternatives on how to bring in innovative sources of revenue for the town. So one of the projects we have discussed, and I wish my slate mates were here, I'm not taking credit for the ideas that they have brought to the plate, but as a team, we think that Teaneck can be a great incubator market where we can actually attract small businesses. Being so close to New York City, which is also known as Silicon Alley, we can actually attract these new startup companies to come here and set up base because of our proximity. The other option is partnerships. We have, right in Teaneck, we have a university that has a tax exempt status, but there are many services that we can potentially share with FDU. And then we have great nonprofits like the Puffin Foundation. We have others. Overall, by breeding a culture of collaboration and looking into the numbers, we think that there will be alternate sources of revenue, bringing in new businesses, which will require, which will be owned by minorities as well as women-owned businesses, and bringing them in. The reason I paused on development is because I know we are going to talk about it and it's a hot button topic. Development is not the only solution to bring revenue to Teaneck. Our council opponents, with all due respect, they have been using this premise of saying, build, build, build. That's the only way to get revenue. That is not true. That is not what we believe. We are completely against any form of dense development without any resident input. I hope I answered your question without leading too much into the next one.
Oh, that was great. So I'm going to do one more on property taxes, and then I'll let Denise take it over. We'll move on to another subject. What initiatives, if any, actually kind of answered this, right? What initiatives, if any, are council candidates proposing to address the tax burden on residents? We did that. I don't know. I'll try to get another one. You answered so many of the questions in one question. You did so well. How do you anticipate property tax changes how they might impact Teanac's housing market, both in terms of home prices and buyers' interest. And
Uh,
we had like a little semi-discussion about this before.
Yeah, we came to TNAC for the diversity. We came to TNAC because of the great school district and proximity to New York. Both my husband and I, we worked in New York City for a fairly long amount of time. We always took the 167 to go into the city. And I think we should maintain the neighborhood character of TNAC. TNAC is a town, should not become a city. The impact on the housing market of increase in taxes is unfortunately affordability is a big problem for many of our residents. As even as I was door knocking a half hour ago, someone told me, I'm a retired person. If my taxes go up, how am I supposed to make up for this? So like looking into more of those solution based for keeping affordability in TNAC, I think that's critical. And I know we're going to talk about renters as well. So they have a special,
Yeah,
yeah,
Right. And do you know how our
absolutely.
taxes, I just wanted to know if you know how Teaneck taxes compare to the surrounding towns?
very high. TNEC taxes on average are 3.24%. The average for New Jersey is 2.8%. And for Bergen County is probably like in the low threes, so 3.0 or something like that. TNEC taxes are very high compared to rest of the state.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point, Reshma. Now, let me just ask you in terms of solutions to helping our homeowners, and what are your thoughts on well, we want to talk about one of the the remedies of the anchor rebate program and how you feel that that potentially can help our homeowners, and also I'd like you to speak a little bit about solutions like alternative types of housing for affordability purposes, like ADUs, accessory dwelling units, to see what are your thoughts on accessory dwelling units in terms of it being a means by which our homeowners can find alternative, housing for family members and generational home living.
Sure. First, I'll answer the anchor question. I hope all of our residents are aware that the anchor program deadline is coming up. The deadline is November 30th, 2024. Anchor program is the largest property tax relief that has been offered to give financial support by the New Jersey government. Anchor stands for Affordable New Jersey Communities for Homeowners and Renters. Both homeowners and renters are covered under this. To be eligible, there are certain eligibility criteria that you have to meet. For a homeowner, it's 250,000 in gross income, and for renter, it's below 150,000 in gross income. And as I stated before, the deadlines are coming up. It's a sizable chunk of money. It's a 1750, so $1,750 in property tax relief that which recipients can receive automatically. I think we should take advantage of such programs. We are all working families. Every little bit helps, and it's not often that we get property tax relief. So between the anchor program and the senior tax freeze program, I think we should definitely educate our residents that they should, take advantage of it. Your question on ADUs, love that question. We have to care about everyone in TNEC, homeowners, renters, as well as transplants. A lot of people move in from different places in New York City because they want to have a lower rent. So we have to look at these affordable developed dwelling units, ADUs as they are called. And this actually is the right time because we are designing a master plan right now. Now is when we can go ahead and have a concerted approach towards building affordability for everyone. Um, I hope that that helps.
Absolutely. Affordability is so vitally important. I mean, that is like why people are really kind of struggling to find, to make ends meet and to find alternative ways in which to live. So that kind of leads us into our next questions. Gina, if we want to talk a little bit about some of the areas in which some of the questions that we actually received. So moving on to the senior tax freeze is another way in which specific qualifications for seniors, because we do have a large growing senior population. And I was just wondering, what are your thoughts in terms of ways in which our seniors can be, can take advantage of, alternative ways in which they can, find ways in which they can help to stay in town and find our town more affordable. Any thoughts on that for our seniors?
Absolutely, Denise. The moment I think seniors, I think of the Senior Citizen Advisory Board and all of our enthusiastic seniors, led by the fearless Mickey Shalan. Mickey is a person who has lived here almost all her life, and her grandkids now come back to visit her in her home. She lives here in Teaneck, and she's so active with the community projects. It's really very amazing to see her community engagement. So the senior tax freeze program is a program that has the state is providing. So seniors, if they're paying property tax, their property tax bill can be frozen. And the application deadline that's coming up is October 31st, 2024. And therefore, I think seniors, if they haven't already availed of this, they need to take advantage. If there is anything we can do to help, seniors can apply online. It's available on the New Jersey Division of Taxation website. You can apply by mail as well as by phone. There's also a phone number listed, and maybe we can drop the phone number in the chat. The number is 1-800-882-6597. So whatever method works, as long as the senior citizens have an annual income of 150,000 or less in 2022 or 163,000 in 2023. Those are the numbers. Again, these are all programs that we have researched. We know they are out there to help our residents. So we would love for our residents to take advantage.
Great,
Maybe,
fantastic.
yeah, I was just going to say, maybe, I mean, it might be a little bit late for this year, but it would be nice to maybe hold things at the senior center that can teach people about these programs, especially the senior tax freeze, because that one is a little involved, on the steps that they have to take to do that. So, do you want to move
Absolutely.
on to development?
Yeah, that's a hot topic. So,
Yeah.
your thoughts opening on development. What do you think, Reshma, in terms of new development and its impact on property values and in our established neighborhoods? And, what measures do you feel as a council to help to prevent overdevelopment, but most importantly, I like to say smart development. What can the council do to underscore our ability the township's ability to really promote smart development? What are your thoughts on that?
Denise, I love that you said smart development. Smart means that some thinking has gone into it. We are calling it sustainable, judicious development. We are talking about strategic development. Are we saying zero development? No. Any town, in order to prosper, in order to thrive, needs some amount of development, but that development very well should be in line with the neighborhood character maintained by the town. A lot of towns have actually achieved this. If you go to downtown Montclair, it's very inviting and welcoming. There's a lot of spaces that you really want to be. So in terms of development, our thoughts, and I'm speaking on behalf of my colleagues here, we are against any dense development. We are for mixed use development. We definitely know that Cedar Lane, Teaneck Road our four distinct downtown areas here in Teaneck have to be developed, whether it is new streetscapes or looking at ways to invite minority and women-owned businesses to more attractive retailers so people can come in. It's not about just putting up 256 or 300 apartments as we have seen at Alfred Avenue. That only adds to the congestion and a choke on our infrastructure, all of our infrastructure. Our roads are narrow. We have the same pipelines and the plumbing is the same for years. So when we say judicious development, we really think that we should not sell our town short through pilots. Pilots, as you know, payments in lieu of taxes. Developers have got away with building what they want in town. And the use of AINR has to be very strategic. AINR, area in need of redevelopment, under the local and real estate housing law, LRHL, was provided to cities where areas would be blighted, and therefore they could welcome developers to come in and give them a pilot as a strategic motivation so they could build there. Does not have blighted areas. TNEC does not have areas that need redevelopment in that sense. So most importantly, what I'd like to conclude on this topic with this thought that all development in TNEC must be led by citizen input. I have personally gone to every town hall where the development for the American Legion Drive has been held. And residents have largely come out and vehemently said that they do not want that many buildings there. Also, this risks our existing farmers market, which, as you know, is a gem in Teaneck. So those are my thoughts on development.
And one other thing too, as far as development goes, it seems that all the development, for a large majority, are only rentals. It would be good in any kind of plan to have ways that people could actually have home ownership and a stake in the town, because you're going to be a little bit more invested in the town, in the schools, and all of that if it's not a lot of transient people. So what are your thoughts on that, and why that hasn't been done, and how do you think that could be worked in?
So the thing that occurs to me, Gina, is it's not possible to say that I'm putting up an apartment here and everyone who's renting here will not have kids in the school system. I mean, that seems like an arbitrary clause. That how are you going to verify that, sustain that, back that up? Anytime you put up a rental building, you are going to have some families that will come from there will want to use the school system. So, and we have seen that with Avalon. We all know this. We know how many students, the Teaneck Public School District has been impacted. As a result, this is what I can tell you for a fact. We are willing to look far and wide for solutions and even emulate some of the best practices from other towns and how they have implemented it while maintaining Teanex's neighborhood character. We came here because of the beautiful tree-lined streets and the diversity and the picket fence and the beauty of our neighbors and our neighborhoods. So we want to maintain that, whatever it takes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point there. I just want to just add to that. And I think, Gina, what you're kind of like saying is that, why is development only about rental, as opposed to, sales, resales, like having, like condos, because it's the same footprint that or plan that a developer would use for an apartment, let's say 40 apartments, it could be 40 condominiums. But the whole idea is that it helps our residents who would buy into the condo, let's say, to build generational wealth, to be able to leave something to their children, and so forth. So how would you approach that as a council person in terms of working within our zoning laws and within our land use boards, in terms of exploring the possibility of actually like incentivizing or really encouraging developers to come with a plan that speaks to ownership?
Denise, I think the answer to that lies in the process and how you do this. If you are committed to transparency and accountability to residents, then the process will be open and there will be a way in which you will invite developers. This is right now what's happening is the other way around. Developers come and present a plan, and the council is somehow forced to adopt it or just goes along with it. And these decisions are made without transparency. So without having too much of information in terms of what plans are being explored, I can tell you for a fact that our slate stands for transparency and accountability. And we really believe in having a more sustainable approach to everything we do with long-term impact. In order actually to just take some words from Artie Walzer, There's only 6 miles. How much more are we going to develop? What happens after we put buildings everywhere? What's next? So this is not a long-term sustainable solution. Build, build, build is not the answer. There has to be a way to work strategically with residents as well as other stakeholders, the hospital, FDU, talk to developers and see what's being done. We need to have a more macro approach to this, big picture approach. It cannot be a short-term campaign myopia. And I'm going to put up a building here, and suddenly Mrs. Baker one day realized that there was a huge construction happening for a building in front of her house, and she was taken aback. Residents were not consulted. So for me, the answer is transparency and how we drive that process to get there.
That's an excellent point. Transparency and communication in terms of letting our community know about development and inviting all the stakeholders to the table to really be able to talk through many of these things. And I know we've been speaking a bit about home ownership in development, but I want to talk for a minute about rent control in Teaneck, a topic that doesn't come up very often. And we know that many other communities have rent control, and that simply means that, as apartments are transitioning from one tenant or one lease to the next lease, that there is some type of percentage increase, maximum percentage increase or range increase that it can go up. So what are your thoughts on rent control in Teaneck, or returning to some type of regulation regarding rent control?
Thank you. I appreciate that question. I have a special soft corner for renters because in my life between college, between graduate school and actually settling down in Teaneck, Arif and I, we moved about 6 times. Most of those, I mean, all of those times where we were renters. So I can actually relate to that so much. And when we go out door knocking, we meet renters who are here and who are, they come to Teaneck because of proximity or because they like the schools. So we need to take care of them. The history on this, as I know it, is that there was a rent leveling board in Teaneck, and they were doing a good job of speaking for renters. But surprisingly, one of the council, when they came into majority, they actually disbanded that board. What happens when the rent leveling board is disbanded is that vacancy decontrol becomes the public policy, which means landlords can, remodel the apartment and suddenly increase rent. And the renter has no appeal. I mean, sometimes they try to appeal this, but they have no avail. They cannot do anything, but so they end up moving out. This benefits the landlords. And statistics show that this is something that is usually done under a Republican form of government. Anyway, that's just me being the nerdy, looking for a stat with incidents that happen. So right now, renters are not protected in Teaneck, and there are a lot of them. There are so many apartment buildings around. So what can we actually do to make sure that we have policies that align with taking care of our tenants? That is where our, that we will strive to do that.
That's excellent in terms of that, because I mean, Gina, just to have that conversation with you, I mean, as a broker, what impact is having diversity when it comes to a town, that you have a certain balance between homeowners and renters. Oftentimes, many of our families have come to Teaneck as renters first, and testing in finding out if they love the town, and then after a few years they decide to purchase.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so I think that it speaks to having that mix of both, homeowners and renters. So rent control does play an important part or consideration, I think, and something, but perhaps may need to be explored further. Any thoughts
It
on
would,
that,
yeah.
Gina?
Yeah, I mean, it would be great to have a board like that again, because during COVID, when housing prices increased so much, people did get priced out of the market. But at the same time, because so many people were having to rent, people moving out from the city, whatever, it raised rent prices so fast, and so high. I mean, you look around at even some of the newer buildings in Teaneck for a one-bedroom apartment. It's very difficult. You'd have to be a couple to be living in that one-bedroom apartment to really afford it. And anything that's the size for an average size family is just so, the rents are so high. It's hard for people to rent and then save money to actually purchase something. It like forces them into a constant rental, state. Like they can't get out of that, off that wheel.
Correct. It's cyclical. They think that they're going to rent for a year or two before they can buy, but the rents are so high, then you'd end up not having money for down payment. And so you're caught in that cycle.
Right,
Yes.
exactly. So, and just going back to development, because we were talking a little bit before we started about certain areas in town, because as you went out door knocking, you were saying that there were a couple of hot button issues on that. And I wanted you to be able to speak to that because you had a lot of information that I think would be good to share.
Yeah, so development, one of the things is we have spent time with the residents living on Decatur Avenue. There are 4 homes there, and those 4 homes are actually average Teaneck sized homes. And there's a huge building that has come up on Alfred Avenue, 329 Alfred Avenue, which is made up of 256 units, I believe. And in that particular area, Gina, there is a lot of traffic already because it's one of the on-ramps to Route 4.
Right.
Um, it looks pretty disastrous. No one should have to go through that. And when Mrs. Baker and Mr. Mohammed and all those people on Decatur, when they bought their homes, that was not zoned to be a commercial area. That was not zoned for a huge building in front of their house. And they have lived there for several, I mean, Mrs. Baker, I imagine, I don't want to hazard a guess, but I imagine she's been there almost all her life because she's lived there. That is a serious problem. So development has to be sustainable and taking community concerns into effect. We don't want to see another repeat of 329 Alfred Avenue in other parts of town.
Right. And what other parts of town are they looking at exactly?
Right now, there is a plan which is being scaringly described as shovel ready. It's the Stop and Shop area of the American Legion Drive and Beverly Road, which is where our farmers market is. There is a plan to bring, I believe it's 300 new apartments there, and which will require a certain number of parking spaces, and this is going to add to the whole congestion. We know Cedar Lane is one of the busiest thoroughfares, and it's sometimes you're just sitting in traffic because of people double parking and trying to use the UPS store or one of the restaurants there. So adding to that congestion, bringing this kind of development there is definitely not a good idea. And the use of AANRs, it's very well defined in statute as to how it has to be used. Once an AANR is deployed, the council does not have to actually open up to the public the discussions with the developer. A developer can be brought in and they can quickly pay a pilot payment in lieu of taxes and then start building. I don't think this should be the way the history of Teaneck should not go down this path. We don't want Teaneck to look like Hackensack. No, we want Teaneck to look like Teaneck because we all moved to Teaneck for a reason.
Yep. Yes, I agree.
Absolutely. And but you said something earlier, I thought something that is worth discussing, and that is, you're about, and your slate is about smart development. You realize that there is absolutely a need for development because of housing needs. I mean, right now we're in the middle of reporting up for affordable housing to the state, because the end of the current round ends in December and the new round starting in January. So they're going to be every municipality in New Jersey is going to have a certain obligation. So you're absolutely on target when you're saying that development has to happen. Um, and to the point that you just made, that we're not a Hackensack, we're not a Teaneck. I mean, we're not a Englewood, we are Teaneck. So when you speak about height limits, I mean, you speak about how high would an acceptable building be. If we looked at areas that even if it's not AINR, if we're not a Hackensack where we have high rises, are we a mid-rise type of town, or are we a low rise?
I don't know what the definition of low rise versus mid rise is in terms of stories, but I do know that the property plan for development on the American Legion Drive area was at 6 stories, and then it was brought down to 4 stories because of public input. Now, this is something, especially because we are at this juncture with the master plan, I think it's critical that, yes, we have to comply with the number of ADUs that the state has mandated us, and that's coming up quickly. However, I don't think the answer to that is to plop up these buildings. I feel like I'm only half answering your question, but I also feel that given the information that we have as a candidate, that's the amount of information we have right now. Being on the council or being privy to more information, I'm sure we would take the right approach with resident input.
And that's critical. I mean, I think what you're just saying is that more information, in other words, reaching out to subject matter experts that have insight beyond just limiting it to the knowledge that we have. I mean, when you want to do more, you have to know more, and knowing more oftentimes means to engage other people that are doing this, or looking at towns that are actually doing successful in development, that speaks to how we want our town to look.
And
Gina,
Denise,
any
is that available as a council member? Can you talk to council members of other towns and zoning boards and planning boards and get input? You know, like when you look at towns you really like you were mentioning, Montclair, or even Ridgewood or Westwood, or towns that really have developed such a great downtown center, but leaving all the residential spaces kind of as is. Because there are a lot of like kind of mixed use spaces and things like that in those towns where the development kind of stays very centralized and it doesn't just spread out into the whole town like Hackensack. I mean, every time you drive through Hackensack, there's a new building going up.
Absolutely. Yes, that is so true, Gina. And one of the ways in which we do that, I mean, there are opportunities like the League of Municipalities, where it's a great opportunity to go and you meet other township officials that are doing development, and certainly we want to think outside the box. We want to think beyond, what we can see. We want to have a great vision. And of course, our town has subject matter experts, but we oftentimes I think it's important to have collaboration, and bringing in our subject matter experts that may can shine a light greater on some other areas. So to your point, to answer your question, yes, there are opportunities, and I would think any candidates like Reshma and her two smart slate mates are definitely looking at what are some of the opportunities that we see in other sister types of towns, or towns that look like Teaneck, and what that potentially can mean. Um, any final thoughts on development, Reshma?
Yes, as you both were speaking, it occurred to me that what do I do at work? If I have to come up with a marketing plan, we are introducing a new software to people at work. The first thing we do is talk to stakeholders. We don't just jump and take a solution off the shelf and say, this is what is going to work. We have to first start with who are our key stakeholders, residents, homeowners, as well as renters. and talking to them and seeing what the input is, at the same time marrying all those aspects into the master plan. And as you rightly said, best practices from other towns. League of Municipalities certainly is a breeding ground for new ideas where we can learn from other municipalities. If you have a hammer in your hand, every problem is looks like a nail. There's other solutions that we have to explore and come with more of an innovative line of thinking. And frankly, my slate mates and I, we don't have all the answers, but we're willing to figure it out. I think the drive that we have in making right by TNEC, in doing right by TNEC, and doing what the citizens want, lead with inclusivity, that is a culture that we want to breed across the table in all of our relationship with stakeholders as well as all other entities, including the school board. So looking forward to that.
Okay. So as we move on to our next question, I just want to encourage those that are here with us tonight to please, if you have any questions, put them in the Q&A chat there. We would certainly like to entertain any questions beyond the ones that we already have. And one of the questions that I have is has to do with shared services. And looking at opportunities by which we can help our budget, help to find ways in which we can find economies of scale, and so forth. And on 2 points, how do you feel that the council could work more collaboratively with the Board of Ed? And that's part one. And part two is how do you see opportunities in terms of shared service opportunities with other townships?
Yes, absolutely. Board of Ed is has to be a critical partner with everything that the council does. If the current council has somehow, unfortunately, literally blocked the lines of communication, and so we need to make sure that with the support of the council members who are working with the Board of Ed and who have previous Board of Ed experience, we are able to leverage that partnership. Shared services, we are looking at, I'm thinking there are ways to share our snow plowing services as well as using the students. The students need to be integrated in every aspect of our government. We have a great program called Leadership TNEC. Why not offer that to students? And why not coach them so they actually are able to go out and look for internships? Why don't they work with council members as interns so they learn the workings of the government? And in addition, I think just in the last few years, the school board has had to face different challenges, which if there had been a healthy partnership between the council and the school board, a lot could have been achieved. These are our kids. These are our neighbors' kids. We have to care for them. We on our slate, we have Mr. Artie Walzer, who has 15 years of experience being on the school board. He brings a wealth of knowledge in terms of those shared services with the school board. In terms of other towns, DPW is a big one. We have to solve this crisis. The current DPW site is really in shambles and it's unsafe, and people have raised safety concerns going in to leave their stuff there, and we have our own town employees that work there, so we need to fix that. Maybe there is an opportunity to do that with another town nearby. We are the only town around here that we have a paid fire department, so if we are able to leverage those kind of services with other towns, um, uh, I guess residents have always asked me, why do we have to pay for garbage here? And I don't know the answer, but we're willing to find out. Is this something that we can explore as a council? So those are just some of my thoughts at the moment.
And we
Okay,
do
so
realize, I just want to say that because Reshma is one person and we were expecting others, I don't want to feel like we're totally burdening her with an entire hour of questions. But also, have we gotten any Q&A questions from our
I'm looking at the chat now
attendees?
to see if there's any questions in the chat that okay, just the main thing is that okay, we have placed some of the details and all the expiration dates and the numbers that Rishma was so kind to include. We will also make sure that it gets to everyone that has attended or listens to the recording. But I did want to talk about one thing, and that is a few people had asked this for this one question that came up, and that is having to do with the new ruling. And then, Gina, this may be a discussion for you and you and me, and that is we have known that the as of August of this year, many people have heard about the settlement agreement that NAR, National Association of Realtors, has had to deal with in terms of and how it kind of impacts homeowners, home sellers, and buyers. So I thought maybe we could answer that one question that came in, and how is that going to affect TNEC sellers and buyers? Are there anything? Is there any words of wisdom that you can impart that we can impart to homeowners when it comes to this new settlement agreement that's only a couple years old, a couple months old? Yeah.
Yep. Barely 3 months old. Um, well, I mean, because it's only barely 3 months old, I don't know that we fully know the impact. I'm personally not seeing very much impact because home sellers understand that if a buyer, uh, with all of the other money that a buyer has to bring to the table to buy a house, that, all the mortgage costs, their down payment, there's a lot more out-of-pocket expense that's associated with the buying side of a real estate transaction. So on top of that, if the buyers now have to out-of-pocket pay for their real estate broker's compensation, it's an added fee to the buyer. But I'm finding that sellers are very open, according to the offer that is made, to pay, if not all, at least part of the buyer's agent compensation to take some of that burden off. Because the truth of the matter is, most of the sellers are in turn going to be buyers on their next transaction somewhere. So I'm not really finding too much. I think it was, every change has good and bad, right? But the good that came out of this was that I feel that both parties have more negotiation tools to use now. Since everything has been uncoupled, it's made everything negotiable.
Right. And that's the nature of our business, is
That's
that
it.
everything
That's what we do.
is negotiable. Yes, exactly. So that's really where we are. It's like full circle moment.
Yeah.
Reshma, we do have a question that came into the chat. I think you may want to answer here. And the question is it has to do with specifically, we have seen divisiveness in our town this year. How can we bring our town together to celebrate each other's cultures?
Wow, great question. How much time do we have? um,
All the time you want.
it has been, it has been a very tough year. We have had a lot going on in TNEC, and TNEC Council has decided to take sides. TNEC Council leadership should lead by example. We have not seen that happen in certain instances. And as a result, our town was actually splashed on the front pages of national newspapers for the wrong reasons. We are hoping, as a slate, being for the people, we are hoping that we can bring back a culture of camaraderie, a culture of just leading with inclusivity. For that, all council leaders must attend all holidays. It's not we pick and choose. If someone cannot attend, they have to at least send a statement or some kind of acknowledgement that we understand sometimes it's not possible to be at every event. Second, we have to make sure that there is some dialogue going on with all of the community tensions. I don't know what is going to stop all of the unrest that's happening in town. We probably need professional mediation at this point. We had some talks of doing empathy training for the council. At the very least, there needs to be some kind of interpersonal interaction where council members can talk to each other cordially. I go to every council meeting if I possibly can, and I notice that the culture is one of divisiveness, is one of taking sides and Even talking in terms of, oh, the majority, now the shoe is on the other foot. I mean, that is just unacceptable. As a council, 7 people together must be working for constituents, not for the specific communities or people who help them get to that position. So doing the right thing takes courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is doing the right thing even when you know that your heart is pounding and your voice is quivering. I've said this before. I think we all mean well, and when we come in to council, we would like to see the same kind of culture of collaboration and forming partnerships, giving each other grace and working together for the betterment of this town. It's 2024. Let's go. We've got a lot to do in Teaneck. Teaneck is at a critical point, and we owe it to our future generations. And the one plug that I have that I keep coming back to is environmental sustainability. We as a town need to be doing more with a focus on climate action with an eye on the future. All of the hurricane situation that we have seen, what are we doing with the storm management, and how are we going to actually take care of the greenery, open spaces in our town? We're talking about pollinator gardens. We have the issue of rail safety in Teaneck. And to do all this, to look at all this, we need collaboration. We don't, unfortunately, I don't see that. Do you? I don't know if you see that. I don't see that. There's a lot of divisiveness. And Teaneck Council should lead and model the behavior they want to see in town.
Very well said, Reshma. Very well said. It is we certainly have enough within our town that we can work on that can benefit our residents. So I thank you for those thoughts there. I wanted to open the up to Gina to see if you have as a roundtable any last thoughts you'd like to provide before we give Reshma the closing comments tonight.
Oh, I think Reshma, you did an amazing job of answering our questions. I think I might have to move back to Teaneck in the next 2 days so I can register to vote for you. But unfortunately, I have enough going on over here, people we have to get in. But yeah, I think you would be an amazing addition to the council. And I think that your vision for Teaneck is really spot on. And I'm going to call everybody I know in town, tell them to vote for you.
Thank you, Gina, and thank you, Denise. If there's one thing I'd like you to remember about our slate, it is that when we say we are for the people, we really mean it. We have, among the three of us, we have a combined sense for servant leadership, standing up for justice, being there for everyone, representing everyone. I myself, I come from a multicultural background. I grew up in India. It's a Hindu majority country where Muslims are in the minority. So everywhere I go in, and needless to say, many a time when I worked in corporate America, I was the only woman of color with a head covering in the room. And this gives you a different perspective. And there is so much richness in diversity. So as a combined slate, Harley Khan and Walzer, we bring and we promise equity and representation for all, with an eye on the environment, with an eye on development, with an eye on affordability, and making Teaneck that thriving, vibrant town that we all came here for. At my gym, it says in big letters, it says, remember why you started. Now I flip that and I say, remember why you came here? You came here because we love this town. We love the diversity, and we love the fact that there was a vibrant community here. We want to sustain that. Teaneck is for everyone. And so we really hope that you will support us. Column 4 for the people. We have a great event coming up on October 26th. It's an early voting family fall festival event. We would love to see you there. Come enjoy hot apple cider, a biryani food truck. We're going to have cricket. We have martial arts demonstrations, and the advantage of meeting the whole community. It's probably our last outdoor community picnic, given that it's fall is here. And so we look forward to seeing all of you there.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you so much. And I just want to thank you, Gina, for tag teaming with me tonight. And thank you for the questions that came in and we were able to share. And Reshma, thank you so much for representing your slate so well. Tonight, we just felt that this webinar was a good opportunity for us to answer questions that many people have regarding, real estate related development, taxes, and so forth. We will share this recording for those that had conflicts tonight and couldn't make it, so we will. And so therefore people will be reminded of the dates for both the anchor program and for the senior freeze, so that our residents will make sure that they take advantage of all those great and wonderful programs. Here again, I thank all the people that came out tonight. Thank you for sitting in listening and sending in questions and so forth. Thank you so much. And on that note, we're going to end it tonight. And it was nice seeing you, Reshma and Gina.
Thank you, Reshma. Thank you, Denise.
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.